it's time for us to get going with the second half of the afternoon presentations. So I am going to hand over to Ian. Ian, over to you.
Thanks, Adam. Hello, everybody. Great to be at a physical AGM after missing probably the last 2 or 3, but don't tell the trustees that. I'd like to thank the trustees for asking me to present 2 subjects, both of which are very close to my heart. One's obvious, it's on the screen there. A lot of you will know I did the London Marathon this year as well. I'm just going to touch on that in the second half. I'll try and be quick because I think the presenter after me has got a train to catch, so we'll try and go through this quickly. When I was putting this together, I realised that flying scholarships for disabled people and competing in a London Marathon, there's quite a lot of links. I found some links. I hope you pick them up as we go through this. On the subject of flying scholarships for disabled people, there's 2 people in the room, as well as myself, who are already involved in the charity. Caroline over there did a scholarship in 2008. And I'd like a round of applause for Becky in the front row, because she flew solo last week. And Becky and Caroline, if I miss anything, just shout with you. You can help me with this. So yeah, changing the lives of disabled people, and I'm focusing this particularly on people with HSP. A little bit about the history. FSDP was established in 1983 as a living memorial to the indomitable spirit of Group Captain Sir Douglas Bader. Anyone in the room not heard of Sir Douglas Bader? Be honest. Please do your research. Everyone should know Douglas Bader. Just quickly, after losing both his legs in an aircraft accident in 1931, Sir Douglas persisted in his efforts against all the odds to resume his flying career within the RAF. He went on to achieve fame in World War II as an exceptional fighter pilot and a gifted leader of men, pursuing his talent into a long and successful civilian career in aviation. Throughout his life, he was a dedicated supporter of physically disabled people, to whom he set an outstanding example of courage and perseverance. FSDP was founded by Paul Bowen and Tim Prince. I know some of you have met Tim Prince. Sadly, Paul Bowen passed away a few years ago, but they're also co-founders of the Royal International Air Tattoo, which is one of the biggest air shows in the world. Since inception, FSDP have changed the lives of well over 400 disabled people. Like us, FSDP are a small charity and they deliver very big results. They operate with minimal overheads and just 1 paid member of staff, and anyone who knows Lou will know she earns every penny she earns. Works really hard organising everything. Everything else is done, like us, by committed volunteers who have one thing in common: to help deliver life-changing experiences for disabled people through the sharing of aviation experiences. And just something here that I find quite almost astonishing, and this is true. FSDP have spent well in excess of £150,000 on scholarships for members of the HSP support group, which is quite something. FSDP fully understands that applicants might be burdened with depression and fatigue, have been suddenly devastated by a medical diagnosis. They may feel worthless and totally isolated and may live in constant pain. And sadly, I know many HSPs can relate to some or all of the above. Applicants for scholarships often have deep social, psychological, welfare and employment issues in addition to their disabilities. They do not feel optimistic about their future, and they suffer from a lack of confidence and have very low self-esteem. FSDP scholars have a range of disabilities and illnesses, including amputation, HSP, multiple sclerosis, cerebral palsy, spinal injury, spina bifida, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, polio, and I could go on and on, the list goes on. Some scholars are born with their conditions, others have them as a result of an accident or of contracting a disease, or even because they have been the victim of a terrorist bombing. As a group, we should be very, very proud, purely because of the communications and the proactiveness within our HSP community. FSDP have now catered for around 15 HSPers. FSDP trustees were very surprised to learn from me that we have a rare condition. They thought that HSP is a common disability, just because of how many of us they've now encountered. The mission of HSP is to change lives. It's to put someone in a much better place, put a smile back on a face, by inspiring disabled adults, building their self-confidence, self-esteem and future aspirations through the sharing of life-changing aviation experiences. Flying scholarships from FSDP are fully funded. They're completely free. They pay for all your flight training. They put you up in a hotel during your flight training, and they pay for all your food. If you're like me and you like a beer or two, you might have to buy that yourself, but everything else is covered. They have adapted aircraft to match the scholars' disabilities. So like the cars you drive, hand controls. That's basically it there. They utilize disability experienced flying instructors. They're used to people like us. They understand it if you're having a bad day with fatigue or something, and they would allow you to rest and modify your training accordingly. Scholarships are designed to build confidence and self-esteem, and they're supported by a network of mentors and volunteers. So how do you apply for a scholarship? The scholarship process, the first thing you do from the website, and the website will be on the screen later, you complete and submit an application form, and you've got to be 18. A pre-selection board choose candidates from the final selection process, and that's usually about 20 people. Typically, initially there's 100 applicants. They choose 20 in pre-selection, and then these 20 people go off to RAF Cranwell for a 3-day period. And while they're at Cranwell, they have interviews, a medical, an aircraft assessment, where they get a chance to climb in and out and all over a little aircraft, and a multiple choice aviation theory test that isn't as hard as it sounds. Is it, Becky? It's a real treat to go to Cranwell. Bear with me. Cranwell is the headquarters of the RAF, really. It's where all training is done. Any officer in the RAF, whether he's a fighter pilot, a chef, a medic, an engineer, they've all done training at RAF Cranwell. It's a very, very special place. After when you're at Cranwell and after all your interviews, they'll decide. It's usually about 10 scholars, I think. Were there 12 this year, Becky? 12 this year. All depends on funding and how much money they get in. But they choose for 12 at RAF Cranwell. They let you know very, very quickly. And then you're invited to the Royal International Air Tattoo. I mentioned it earlier. It's a huge air show, hundreds and hundreds of aircraft. And 2 years running, you're invited there. The first year, you're presented with your scholarship. And in the picture on the right, you'll see my good friends Dawn and Matthew being presented with their scholarship by some very, very important people. Presenting Dawn there is the King of Jordan. And I think that's the chief of the RAF on the right, presenting Matthew with his scholarship. The picture on the left, also at RIAT, one of the scholarships is sponsored by the Red Arrows. And my good friend Abby Evans was awarded this scholarship a few years ago. Do you know Abby? Have you met Abby? No. Abby, she's got Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. She was one of the first people I interviewed. I was a trustee for 5 years. Abby and I clicked. Other than the fact that she supports Everton and I support Bournemouth, everything else went very, very smoothly. But she had a little tagline, a little catchphrase that came out in her interview. And that was, do what you can't. And it stuck with me. I think about that a lot, and I try to live my life to that as well. I want you to remember that as well, because it might come up again. So just some pictures of a flying experience. All I'll say about these, these are taken during people's scholarships. Just look at the smiles. And I'm sure Caroline and Becky will agree with me here. Believe me, when you're at the controls of an airplane, the last thing on your mind is disability and HSP. You're piloting an airplane. It doesn't end when you finish your scholarship. I think Becky, you've seen it already. Caroline knows, she's nodding over there. You become part of a very big family. It surprised me just how many great friends I've made through the charity. Just here's the first link as well to my my London Marathon experience, which I'll talk about in a minute. But top right is Catherine and Anne Wild sitting on the wing of a PA-28. They did their scholarships. I think it was 2018. And it was the same year I did the Bournemouth half marathon, just in an ordinary wheelchair, like the one I'm sitting on now. Anne Wild is a Paralympian. Some of you, has anyone heard of Anne Wild? She did wheelchair basketball, and I think she did an athletics event as well. But she became my coach. I got to know her through the flying scholarships process, and most of the coaching was nutritional advice, but she did give me some physical training to do as well. But I always remember her saying to me, whatever time you do in the Bournemouth half marathon, if you used a racing wheelchair, you'd half it. And I always remembered that. We're coming on to that. So just a little bit of my history. This is me at Riyadh being presented with my scholarship by Queen Noor of Jordan. The other photograph, these guys in red, you know who they are, they keep popping up, but they're great supporters of flying scholarships for disabled people, obviously the red arrows. Like me, Caroline also went about 20 years ago. They used to send people abroad for training because it was cheaper. I've put how lucky was I. I was very lucky, but actually, if you're going to continue flying, I do believe it's much better to learn in this country. It makes any future flying much safer and easier. But it was a fantastic experience. I had 6 weeks at 43 Air School in the Eastern Cape, Port Alfred, actually, in South Africa. That's where Caroline went to. Picture on the left, that's after my first solo. Very, very proud, very, very special day. And they didn't let me step out the aircraft when that happened. All my training, it's a very busy air school, this was. There were 250 students there learning to be commercial pilots, and they pulled me out the aeroplane and threw me in the swimming pool. It's just a tradition. Picture on the right, you can see the 3 other people who I did my training with. 2 guys at the front, both spinal injuries, and Louise at the back, and the lady on the left was one of the trustees of FSDP who just came to visit us. Just a point I'd like to make about that, and I've often said this, I've been involved with flying scholarships for disabled people now since 2005 when I got my scholarship, and every year I meet 20 or 30 new disabled people. I've got so many disabled friends now with all sorts of disabilities, but I wasn't aware of it at the time. But the ones with spinal injuries, like the 2 guys in the photograph, just being around them and seeing what they do. When the day came for me to use a wheelchair, it just made it so much easier because it just seemed an ordinary bit of kit. I already knew a lot about them because I'd learned it from these guys, and it was an easy transition to make. Flying became an amazing hobby. That's me sat on the apron at Compton Abbas, which is my local airfield and probably still my favourite airfield in the UK. famous for its cakes. The picture on the right is me with my youngest daughter, Cara. I'm very proud because I think my activities, I flew until COVID actually, so I flew from 2005 until about 2018. Cara was inspired to take up her training and she flew solo as well. So yeah, we did many flights together. Made me a very proud dad. My favourite flight, just quickly, was in a Tiger Moth, also at Compton Abbas. They wouldn't let me fly it because they wouldn't let me fly it solo. But because I had a license, they let me do most of the flying, and it was an incredible experience. The pilot in command sat just behind me. Had some very special trips. On this occasion, I flew into RAF Scampton, where the Red Arrows are based. Spent the day with them, sat down in their briefing, then watched their display, and then I was amazed at how critical they are of each other and themselves when they watch a video of their display during their debriefing. I was lucky enough to fly some very exciting aircraft types. Technam on the left there, which belongs to Air Ability. That's landing at Blackbush, and the Bulldog on the right on the apron at Compton Abbas. So, in the words of Group Captain Sir Douglas Bader, and he was famous for these words, so I know Becky and Caroline have probably heard these before because they end the presentation ceremony that you went to last week. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that you can't do this or that. That's nonsense. Make up your mind you'll have a go at everything. Go to school, join in all the games you can, go anywhere you want to, but never let them persuade you that things are too difficult or impossible. And in my friend Abby's words, I mentioned her earlier, she's saying the same thing. Do what you can't. So that's it, Flying Scholarships for Disabled People. To apply, visit their website, fsdp.co.uk. I've got flyers and cards in my car, stupidly, but it's only just out there, and I'll have them with me later. So anybody who's interested, please just come and see me later. And there's no way, the only age limit is you've got to be 18. There's no upper age limit. So moving on, and I'm going quick because I know our next presenter has got a train to catch. Many of you know in this room, you've asked me, and thank you for asking me, and I'll try not to get emotional, but this event, it was quite special to me, the London Marathon. I think that's a boring title for it though, so I'm going to call it Do What You Can't. Where all the madness began. I'd like you to meet Jakob and his lovely family. Jakob and his twin brother Elliot both have cerebral palsy. Picture of them here in 2017 when Jakob was 5 years old. He had to go to America for a special operation. In fact, it was a selective dorsal rhizotomy, SDR. I know some people with HSP have had them too. And it was just to help improve his mobility. Yeah, it's to help. I was involved in fundraising for this, and his family have been great friends of mine ever since. And about 4 years ago, I bumped into Jakob's mum, and she was telling me about Jakob's athletics. Apparently, he had become a really good frame runner and needed a new running frame. A new fundraising project was born, and having never heard of a running frame before, I needed to go and find out more. So I went along to the athletics track where Jakob trains. The pictures say it all. There are 3 running frames there. I would say they're great actually for anybody in the early stages of HSP. Brilliant for your fitness. Soon became obvious to me what a running frame is, but while I was there, they let me have a go at this. That's March 2023. Notice it's a blue chair. That's where I train, actually. That's the track I train on twice a week. And guess what? I got the bug. There's pictures of me there. That's just training. As I say, we go twice a week. I do an hour every Wednesday evening and 2 hours every Sunday. Picture on the top right is the people I train with, but the guy in the chair second from the right, Nathan Blackie, used to race wheelchairs for Scotland, and I'm very, very lucky because he's one of my 2 coaches, and they are brilliant. The other guys are all just members, and these were just fun events and races. I quickly signed up as a member of Poole Athletics Club, and as you can tell, I've never looked back. As I say, my chair's changed. It's a red chair I'm sitting in there, as opposed to the blue one on the previous slide. And I was very, very lucky that the Steve Bernard Foundation half-funded a custom-built race chair for me, and it's about £4,000 worth. A bit of fun training and some fun races. Soon got a little bit more serious. I used to do running when I was fit. I always preferred longer distances, and that applies to. Soon became obvious that that would apply to the wheelchair too. I started entering half marathons at Goodwood Motor Racing Circuit, and the first 2 I did were 2024. Did it in any weather, as you can see. Alex, the guy in the green chair, is my most regular training partner. You might see him racing for Great Britain one day. He's a superstar. And a real help for me. My best time at the half marathon after a couple of events, after a couple of attempts, was 1 hour 35 minutes or 95 minutes. And I was proud and delighted with this at the time. However, it's moved on a click. Can I go back? It's better. HSP, Adam's already told us. And it's right at the start of the day what it stands for, and we all know what it stands for. But you're actually wrong. On this occasion, it stands for highly surprising performance. This was July last year. I'd already been told. Well, I was under the impression I'd already decided that I wanted to do the London Marathon. And I'd been told that you had to qualify as an elite athlete. You had to do it a marathon in sub 3 hours. I didn't know, I had no knowledge that you could qualify in a half marathon. But at the start of this event, I bumped into a young lady. She had a similar chair to mine, but it was bright pink. She had all the gear, looked like she knew what she was doing. So I had to get chatting to her. I introduced myself, and she told me that she'd done a half marathon a couple of weeks earlier in 82 minutes, and she needed to break 80 minutes because she wanted to do the London Marathon. And she explained to me that you can qualify in a half marathon. Anyway, my best time was 95 minutes. So I said to her, well, good luck to you. I'm hoping for 85 minutes. And I thought that was an optimistic target. It was a very special day, particularly because my whole family had come there as well, and they were there to witness it. So as I said, my best time up until this day was 1 hour 35 minutes, but I surprised myself. 1 hour, 19 minutes and 52 seconds. It qualified me for 2026 London Marathon as an elite wheelchair athlete by 8 seconds. But that's good enough for me. I was determined to do it. I think I'm 62 years old. I might only get one chance, so let's do it. So after several communications with British Athletics, who have been absolutely brilliant and really looked after me, this turned up in my inbox. These are my coach's words. It's time to get serious. They call me Ben. Ben, it's time to get serious. You just got to, let's train. So we did. The 2 pictures on the right, I mean, it's an event I did at Bath. It's only a 5K event, but there's a lot of short speed work and there's a lot of distance training as well. And I was proud my local MP there, Vicky Slade, back in January, presented me with an achievement award from from Pool Athletics Club. I did 8 half marathons at the start of this year, but I needed to know I could do a marathon. So I entered one at Goodwood, and in February I managed to do a Goodwood marathon in 2 hours 50. Is it 2 or 3? My eyes aren't very good. Thank you. But that also qualified me for London, and not just by 8 seconds on this occasion. There's a rule though, to do the London Marathon as an elite athlete, you've got to be classified. You'll notice when you watch the Paralympics, they say athletes are T34s or T54s. If you're a swimming athlete, it starts with an S. If you're a field athlete, it starts with an F. And it's just to make events fair. It's so that you don't get a 3-limb amputee competing with somebody with a broken fingernail. It just makes everything fair. British Athletics, they entered me as if I was classified, but the only opportunity I had to get classified was the week before the marathon, where I had to go to Loughborough, which is an amazing facility. Went there, physical examinations on a couch, lots of chats with physiotherapists and coaches, and they watch you on the track as well. And while I was there was a couple of very famous athletes training on the track, and it was a privilege to use the track myself. But I'm now classified as a T34 athlete. So exactly 1 week after this, here we go. And this picture is taken from iPlayer, and there's my name on the screen. Look out for me next year, because I'm going to be there again. But that's Marcel Hoof at the front. I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen up there, but I'm right at the back here. But I was there. Just a few pictures en route. You'll notice a bit of serious stress and strain on the face, but I had trained properly for this, so it was actually an amazing, enjoyable experience. And my favourite picture en route is this one. The lady in red, just above the yellow bollard, went on to get the world record, and I don't think I held her up too much, but they managed to weave past me. The elite women start 15 minutes after the elite wheelchairs, and only 8 passed me. I don't know if anyone's heard of Eilish McGolgan. She overtook me twice. I managed to get her back twice just because of downhill gradients. But and I had a good chat with her. We're so privileged. We all share the same marquee at the end as well. It was an unbelievable experience. I'm hoping this one's going to work. This is just it does work. This is me finishing. You'll notice it's empty. It's because the elite wheelchairs start first. We have the track to ourselves. But I wish I'd slowed down by 90 seconds, because 90 seconds after me was the world record man in 1 hour 59, whatever it was. And if I'd slowed down by 90 seconds, I still would have done the 1 hour 45 I was after, but I would have been on every newsreel coming down the mall with it. So yeah, I was after 1 hour 45, did 1 hour 42:58, which I was absolutely delighted with, and that alone qualifies me for next year. So yeah, just a couple of pictures at the end here, and relief, pride, delight. There's me proudly wearing the medal, and very proudly wearing the Pool Athletics vest as well. They were very proud to have a 60-year-old man in the event, and I was the first 60-year-old to cross the line as well. So I was immensely proud of that. Huge thanks, just quickly, Jakob, because without you, this never would have happened. He's 15 now, and he's a good friend of mine. Pool Athletics Club, for obvious reasons, everything they do is fantastic. The Steve Bernard Foundation, I mentioned them. They very kindly funded half of my equipment. My 2 amazing coaches. You saw Nathan in his chair earlier on, and you're just about to see Martin. all fellow athletes who have been so helpful. Everyone else I train with seems to be 18 or 20 years old, but they don't mind the old man in the pack. And you know what? They hate it. They hate it when I overtake them. And Bromwich in wheelchairs who made my chair. They've been incredibly supportive and helpful ever since. And everyone who's followed me and supported me in these wheelchair racing activities. So 10 or 20 years ago, if somebody had suggested that at the age of 62, I'd be competing in the London Marathon as an elite wheelchair athlete, I honestly would have thought they were absolutely bonkers. So remember those words of Sir Douglas Bader. Don't listen to anyone who tells you that you can't do this or that. It's nonsense. Make up your mind you'll have a go at everything, but never, never let them persuade you that things are too difficult or impossible. Or as Abby would say, do what you can't. So whether it's piloting an aeroplane or racing in a wheelchair or anything else that may initially seem crazy, every challenge you face in life is a chance to prove to yourself that you are much stronger than you ever imagined. So keep showing up, keep believing, and keep proving that limits are there to be broken. Do what you can't. Thank you.